You can kill me, but you will never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
Are you kidding? Why the hell should I wait for you?
I know what it's like to try and rebuild a life. I had a bad day too, once.
If you're having nightmares, then welcome to the club. My name's Subaru Natsuki, and I am the Knight of Amelia.
Right now, all I can give you is just death.
It wasn't for you in particular.
You fought 100 men because it's not in your nature to run away.
If you are feeling disheartened, that you are somehow not enough, set your heart ablaze.
Hello? Anyone? Okay. Finally, I don't know what that was about. I'm turning my camera off. I just want to make sure everyone knew I was here trying to solve this. I don't feel like particularly being on camera tonight. So we're going back to this. For some reason, it was not picking up my audio. I do not know what that was about. Oh, apologies. Okay. So tonight, some new entries, and I will talk a little bit. Oh, I should have brought this up beforehand. Here we go. Images. All right. Let's bring this up. We'll share this, and we'll start by talking a little bit about the things I've been reading. This is why I am saying that I don't want to be on camera. I'm not feeling the greatest right now, but okay. Also, hello to Jeremy Turner and Marcel. Good to see you guys in chat. I always appreciate having you guys around. But this is the one and only thing I really do want to talk about that I have to talk about that I have read. So if you are unfamiliar with this series, oops, I wanted to get a bigger image. I guess that works. If you're unfamiliar with this series, this is basically the adaptation, like the manga adaptation of a hentai doujin, okay? So someone made a fairly popular NSFW series, and they decided to turn it into a proper ecchi manga with an actual story and everything. So basically you can read this on top of the like original Dojin works, and it's all one coherent story and everything lines up. It's kind of funny, but I thought it was hilarious that it started as hentai and then became a manga, and there is now the chance that this will end up becoming an ecchi series that gets aired at some point in the future. But yeah, basically the premise of this is that the main character gets kicked out of his house for not being not being manly enough, and all these gals just start hanging around his place, and like the one with the Yandere Elf last season also started as a hentai. Interesting. Either way, I actually like that manga. It's still very ecchi in the manga adaptation, but any like sex scenes that like are actual like all the dojins that have all the sex stuff are canon to the storyline of this. They're not in the manga, so you have to go find those separately. Either way, that's about the only thing that I have, like, the only thing of note that I have read this week. So that's really going to bring us around to talking about this. And now you'll probably look at this and notice, hey, there's something new here. There's something new here. I have added a category called I don't know, because there's a new anime we're going to talk about tonight that I really don't know how I feel about it. But with that being said, I think we're just going to start working our way down the list and go from top to bottom, which means we will start. Well, not Dandadan. I'm not really going to talk about this latest episode of Dandadan because I saw it months ago. But I do like the series. We're going to start with the next best thing. And that is going to be where is it? Why is it My Dress Up Darling? There we go. We're going to start with My Dress Up Darling. And in this episode, we get Amane's backstory in all of this. It starts out with like the equipped boobs scene, where we are basically introduced to some new cosplay things, and like Gojo and Marin are like super invested in everything that Amane is teaching them, and of course they're not really like turned off about the fact that he's cross-dressing or anything. So they end up getting along really well. He feels like he's had a good time because everyone at the cosplay event was super excited about everything he was doing. Of course, Marin's reactions in this and the way they use animation to accent the humor in this show is just fan-fucking-tastic. But yeah, then we get Amane's whole backstory, and I did like that they never showed his face until right at the end when him, Marin, and Gojo part ways, and you actually see him in just his normal like streetwear. I thought that was a good touch. And of course, they have to end this whole thing with the Marin photo shoot and like the whole like, oh, Gojo's Gojo's the boyfriend, like he has to be. There's no possible way he's not. And they go off to celebrate Shizuku's birthday party. Like, this show is just like, in all of this, I'm just like, Marin is like a genuinely amazing person. Just like, she's got a great personality. She's really fun. Like S tier waifu, okay? Like, Gojo won big in this series. Yeah, so far this adaptation has been amazing. I'm really glad that the subtitles weren't fucked for this one like they were last week, but hey, so be it. It's still a really good show. It is absolutely fantastic. The animation for it has been much better than a love story ever needs, but it does a great job accenting all of the comedic moments and using Marine's over-the-top reactions from the manga and adapting them really well into this. Everything they have done with it has been amazing. But that's really all I do want to say on My Dress Up Darling for this week. I thought it was a really good episode. I enjoyed it. I thought there was an emotional hook to it. There was some comedy to it that I really did like. Good stuff. The next one on the list would be Clevitas. I'm making a note here so I can reorganize my notes file here for next week. Because what I'm going to try and do from now on with talking about this stuff is I'm going to do it in order as they are on the list here, so we can work our way down, because some of the more popular ones are the ones that people actually want to hear about, and the ones down here are ones that people can probably, skip out on. Yes, absolutely. Marine has to be in best waifu conversations. Like, there is legitimately nothing wrong with this woman. She is perfect. Except for the fact that she can't cook very well. Or, well, it's not that she can't cook very well. It's more so the fact that everything she cooks is basically junk food. But Clevitas. So this one's kind of an interesting episode. We do get Alucia getting really clever with her immortality and using the fact that she can't die to her advantage. I did like the creative ways in which they did that, especially with the fact that she knows she can't drown. She just has to endure the pain and she'll be fine. We do get, the tragedy that happens with Nell, the girl that Clevitas has been scouting for a wet nurse. And she does not have a good time here. It's pretty awful, but it seems Clevitas intends to let her die so that he can reanimate her. I feel like that's going to be the play here. He's effectively not giving her a choice. And we do now know how Alucia is going to get that sword that she has in, the trailer. Although they do seem to be foreshadowing the fact that there is a much bigger, much badder monster down in that pit. So I do like this one. I thought the animation was a little bit this week, particularly when you had some pan out shots of multiple people chasing Alucia, and it just didn't look right. But otherwise, I'm kind of watching this for the story, and that's really the big part that That's really the part that I'm invested in. The animation could probably go to hell in a handbasket, and I'd still enjoy this one because I think the story is just very, very well done. So yeah, that's Clevitas is number 3. I need to go find My Dress Up Darling and mark that off as number 1. Where is it? This is why I need to organize my notes. There we go. Shift 2. There we go. Down the line will be number 1, but I can fix that. All right. So yeah, there's that. Unfortunately, there was no new episode of Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. I really do like this show, so I was super disappointed with that. But you know what? You can't always win. Oops. That's the wrong key. Oop, nope, that's still the wrong key. There we go. That's what you get when you type with one hand. Okay. But that brings us on to Gachi Akuta, which will be number 5 for the night. Okay, so Gachi Akuta. I've said this before, but I really do love the intro to this. It is very much up my alley in terms of music. I like hardcore, metalcore, really loud, angry sounding music. That's my jam. Okay, so Gachi Akuta always gets me hyped up right at the beginning with that kind of stuff. I love it. I think this show is just a consistently good one to watch. It's a very well done shonen. It doesn't feel immature or childish to watch, even though it probably is still something that is decently watchable with, the younger members of the audience. The power system is really good. I think it has a good setup for its first 2 episodes here. You're introduced to a lot of things that are happening. It does a very good job of explaining to you what's going on, while also leaving a bit of the mystery of the orb and everything, or the sphere, I should say, and everything that goes on with that for later in the series. We are introduced to Rudo's abilities in full in this one, so that was nice. We also get to see how him and Engine are gonna get along through all this. I really love this series. It's just genuinely good. It doesn't have the greatest animation of all of it. It's still really good, but they do use a good bit of CGI, 3D modeling, to do the monsters, which I can respect, because it would be a lot of work to try and animate the trash beasts in 2D. There's a lot of work that would have to go into that. So I don't have a problem with it. But this one, personally, if you're looking for an action series, one that's going to be pretty good and pretty easy to watch, even if you have, say, kids around, this one's a good one, although there's probably going to be a little bit of language to it that I would say look out for. All right, so that brings us to... That one's not new. Get rid of that one. That brings us to... Where is it? The summer Hikaru died. So the summer Hikaru died. Okay. This latest episode, I wasn't a huge fan of. And here's why. One of the big things that I do genuinely enjoy about this show in particular is the fact that it is very heavy into the supernatural sort of horror elements that I don't know, I find very thrilling. I kind of like its creepy atmosphere. The way it did the first 2 episodes was very well concocted. I thought those 2 were great. This latest episode, though, I don't know if I was a huge fan of it. I still really like this show, but I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of this latest episode. I don't know about that one. A bit too BL for me. I can see it, to be honest. I can understand that, especially after episode 3. Because I have a feeling that's kind of the part of the reason why I didn't like this episode is it was really, really focused on this overly tender friendship between our 2 main characters. It was, I don't know, kind of weird. But if it goes back to being a little bit more on the horror side, I'm willing to ignore this episode, because I do like it when it starts doing the creepy stuff and when it starts doing the supernatural stuff. That part of it is really good. But I mean, we basically get Hikaru lore this episode. The main character is basically getting warnings not to get involved, because a lot of people are starting to get warning signs that something isn't right with the area. Some people can sense the evils that are coming off of the mountain and that are showing up in the area. And a lot of them seem to know, or at least one of them, I should say, seems to know that Hikaru is, or well, the fake Hikaru is somehow involved. Either way, if it gets more BL, I probably won't be super invested in it anymore. I don't know. It's just it's a thing that I don't enjoy. You can fault me for whatever, but I don't enjoy gay romance. Okay. But if it leans pretty heavy into the supernatural stuff in the coming episodes, I'll be willing to watch it and continue watching it and continue saying that it is a good anime. Okay, so that would be number 8. Oops. I guess that brings us to Taco P's Original Sin. That should be all the way up at the top because it's one of the first anime I watched. Okay, Taco P's Original Sin. This one... Okay, so I really liked this latest episode of Taco P's Original Sin. Hey, how we doing? It's been a while since you've been around here, man. I appreciate it. How you doing, Roland? I mean, it's not like I don't talk to you regularly because I'm in your chat and I'm in your stream too. But it's nice to see you around here. And Muffler Tape is here too. Hello to you too. I kind of figured you were somewhere in the lurker section. Okay, so Taco P's Original Sin. So this latest episode basically involves our third character, Naoki, the guy who's been helping the kid who's been helping Shizuka this whole time, and his entire struggle and like the position that everything that's happened has put him in. He is basically having a complete nervous breakdown because someone has found Marina's body and they're doing the whole investigation into it and everything. And yeah, there's some things are continuing to continuing to just, go sideways. Also, hello to Justin the Rhino. Hope you're having a good time. I think it's the first time I've ever seen that name in the chat. Appreciate having you around. Also, everyone's showing up, man. The questioners is here too, apparently. How you doing, man? Okay. So I really like the fact that it delves deep into Naoki's story in this episode and like everything that has basically made him holy shit. Okay. So we have a $20 super chat from Roland New. Thank you very much. And Roland says, about to go to a bonfire, but wanted to stop by and say, hey, have a great weekend and show. I appreciate it. Hope you have a good time. Enjoy your bonfire, dude, and thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Okay, now where were we? Okay, so yeah, we get a lot of Naoki's story in this, like his whole like inferiority complex to his brother and all the stress that like everything his mom has been doing is putting on him. And he basically feels like everyone has given up, like he's totally worthless. And the only person who like sees any value to him whatsoever is Shizuka. I really liked that part. The part that I think really like kind of sent home where this series is kind of going is Shizuka might just be an equally horrible person as everyone else in this. In spite of being like bullied and everything and like having the short end of the stick in life overall, she's still completely willing to try and get someone to take the blame for the consequences of everything that's happened. Basically, rather than, it's not even really like it's the consequences of her actions, but she's literally telling this guy who has been her only friend to go take the blame for a crime that he didn't commit, just so that he can, protect her because, oh, well, you're the only one I can count on. It seemed very manipulative. I'm just like, shit. If you're willing to have someone, if you're willing to say that to someone, to go and be like, hey, you should pretend like you did all this horrible stuff so that I can go live my life. I would look at that person and be like, hell no, you're pretty fucking psycho. So in Shizuka's case, I literally looked at him like, oh, why would you do that? At first, I felt like really, really sorry for you, but you're kind of becoming a shitty person as well if you're asking this dude who, and I don't know if she has any idea as to like whether she's actually like, I don't know if she's consciously manipulating him or if this is just like something where like she's asking him to do something for her, but it does really come off as manipulative. It's a very interesting episode, one that I thought was pretty good in terms of the writing and the subject matter it's dealing with. And I do like that it seems like Naoki is getting his resolution while Shizuka is basically just, skipping on town to get away from everything. She's just going to run. So Takapi's original sin is 6. All right, that brings us along to Witch Watch. Okay, so Biggles did not like this episode for some reason. I don't know why, because I actually really enjoyed the whole episode. I thought it was pretty funny overall. We basically have very, very blunt vampire shenanigans, and this whole thing where like their new ally who happens to be a vampire. And also a vampire that is the son of a priest of what basically looks like a Catholic church. So we have Catholic vampires who wield the power to banish evil. Very, very interestingly, creatively new idea here. And the new kid on the block is incredibly blunt and just says whatever the hell comes to his mind. Also acts really, really weird when he starts absorbing energy from Moi. And like has the whole like weird erotic reaction. I don't know. The whole episode was just kind of like funny shenanigans to where like Moi's like freaking out every time that this kid is like trying to heal himself. I thought there was a lot of good stuff. And yes, we cannot forget about our girls in swimsuits this episode. Excellent. Love it. Great stuff. Well, this definitely ain't like true vampire stuff. It is very much like pop culturized. But a lot of people still do like the classic stuff. Now it's just really funny to me where like they had this like they're introduced to this family of vampires, and the more you find out about them, the weirder it gets. Like, okay, you're a priest who works as an exorcist, but you're a vampire. So Witch Watch had a good episode this week. I'm still consistently enjoying it. This is one that has been fun last season and one that has been continually good this season. Okay. Lord of the Mysteries. Not really like Tokyo Ghoul. I don't know. You would kind of, I guess you would have to show, but I do like the unique way that yeah, like Jeremy Turner here puts it. They have unique rules for everything in this show, which I think adds to the world. It definitely adds a very interesting layer to everything that is happening in here. And that brings us to Lord of Mysteries. Okay. The eldritch horror steampunk sort of show. All right. So I thought it was a cool episode. This time around, there was some interesting lore stuff. We did get to learn about the demoness sect or whatever it was. I don't know. Witch Watch is a bit of a comedy. So do what you will with that information, but it's a comedy that basically takes a lot of like classic monsters like vampires and werewolves and like you have witches and stuff like that, and it does like a pop manga sort of spin on them. So the popular manga sort of spin on them. I think it's pretty good in what it does. It's very entertaining. So Lord of the Mysteries. So like I said, I did think that this was a cool episode that I still feel kind of suffers in the way that it conveys a lot of its information. I won't say that the series is bad because a lot of it actually is like pretty well written. And it's just one of those things where I feel like it can't decide whether it wants to be a mystery or an action series. And it kind of gets caught somewhere in between to where like it tries to play things in a simple way, but it's building on like a really like complex mystery that needs more detail. I mean, the animation is consistently good. I thought the fight scene in the underground market was a really cool element in this one. We do get, like I said, some lore on some of the other organizations. We do get to see a little bit of how people's powers like fully function. There's some cool things and like the way like they're like basically using a bunch of different forms of mysticism to counteract each other. That was cool. I do like those elements. I just feel like this show would probably benefit from doing a little bit more in the way of keeping people up to speed with what's going on. I feel like even as I watch it now, as much as I do understand more of the story, I feel like there are times where like maybe it should slow its roll. That is my biggest complaint about this show so far. Is there are times where it just feels like it needs to slow down rather than shoving through a bunch of information. That said, I won't be moving this one around because I still do enjoy it. I still think it's a sorry if that got really loud there. I still do think it is a good series. Not a must watch like everyone who was a fan of the show was like hyping it up to be, but it's good. It's good. Ironically, right next to each other on my list of notes are the two that we will be, talking about here. The show is eye candy through and through. Sadly, I think there's a cool story that isn't making it to the surface. I think that's an interesting take, and it's kind of what I've been talking a little bit about. Is there is like a lot of good storytelling to it. Like there's a lot of cool things that it's doing. It just doesn't do a very good job of keeping you a pace of what's actually happening. Sometimes it feels like it does things that it just doesn't give you a very clear information, like a very clear idea of why it's being done. And you're just supposed to be like, okay. And I'm not asking for aside from like a shonen where it goes into like where a narrator goes into detail to tell you things that are happening. I feel like it just misses certain story cues that probably could help to explain exactly what's going on with the show. But that probably won't be my hottest take for the night. So sit back and relax. We have To Be Hero X next. This one is okay. That shouldn't be. Let's go VG1, VG2. So, oops. Let's talk To Be Hero X now that I've got that taken care of. So I actually really did enjoy this episode. Hello to JM the Elite Fan. Nice to see you around. What up, y'all? I started watching Science Fell in Love, so I tried to prove it the other day. It's a fun romance slice of life. I've seen a lot of talk about that one. So perhaps I should check it out at some point myself. Either way, To Be Hero X, I actually really enjoyed this latest episode. I thought it was a very interesting backstory on Ghostblade. They make a really good, like, compelling sociopath character out of him. Ooh, okay, something's lagging here. Maybe it's just that one. All right, well, I'll keep it on the list. I have yet to hear anything bad about it. So To Be Hero X, yeah, like a good, compelling sociopath character, like this guy who like had a family and people who understood him. He's completely incapable of talking, but he also doesn't understand emotion or anything. He's not a good person, but I still kind of feel bad for him anyway, because you can tell like there are some like genuine attempts that he makes to, you know, like try and connect with his family, but he just goes about it in the wrong way or just makes some terrible decisions in life that cost him all of that. And so I kind of felt bad for him, but he is entirely in a place of his own making, because Ghostblade made a bunch of bad decisions. I really like this episode a whole lot more than I have the past several. Okay. Next on the list for the night, though, is one that I am going to where is it? Okay. So next on the list is one that I am going to go hard on. Tougen Anki. Massive drop from. Will you be covering the spicy anime? Oh, I absolutely will be covering the super spicy anime of the season. Yes, that is on the list. Trust me, boys, that is on the list. We'll talk about that. So, what's my problem with Tougen Anki? So, I liked the first episode. I really thought it was a good series with the first episode. I thought it came out and like it started on the right foot, had a strong entry into the season. I thought it was like, you know, like there was a lot of compelling stuff that was happening. The blood powers were really cool. I thought like the whole bringing a gun to a sword fight was funny. The second episode kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth. It came off as very, very bland shonen storytelling for the most part. We basically have a bunch of quirktastic characters who are kind of like over the top and committed to their one bit. Congratulations. But worst of all in all of this is the main character, if you ask me. The main character himself. just doesn't entice me into the show. He's the brutish idiot of the whole thing, and not in a very endearing way. Like he's just dumb the whole time and sort of like muscle brains his way through a couple of things. And it's not like the animation is like super impressive. They use a lot of like 3D CGI, which isn't the worst. It actually is pretty decent CGI that they use for the show. I don't know. I did not like this latest episode. I ended up feeling like I was incredibly disappointed after everything that had happened in the first. So I have to be hard on this one. It gets demoted hardcore, if you ask me. This is going to go in the category of... Oops. G9. You've seen Nuki Tashi? Yes, we'll be getting to that later in the night. We have Nuki Tashi right here. Do not worry. We will talk about it, as everyone's already kind of asked up to this point. Nuki Tashi, we will talk about the unhinged sex anime. Yes. I'll still watch it. I'm just like, overall, it wasn't a good experience, if you ask me. I was severely disappointed with how it played out. And it wasn't so much that he was just loud, but like, I don't know, I'm kind of sick of the idiot main character trope. Like he's completely dumb and he just brute forces everything. I don't know. It wasn't entertaining to me. I don't think he had any sort of like redeeming qualities there. Okay. Let's move on to the waifu anime of the season, outside, I should say, of My Dress Up Darling. My big down bad moment for the season, Ruri Rocks. So I want Nagi, and okay, I'm gonna say that every week. Okay. So we do learn that well, she actually knows how to use a hammer, and that's one thing I actually thought was funny. Like, they actually go through like the mechanics of using a hammer very specifically, like the best way to use a hammer. And this is something you'll learn if you ever build anything, like if you ever work on a construction site or whatever. The way you swing a hammer is very, very important for how it works. You wouldn't think so because it's a simple tool, but a lot of it is in the wrist. Okay, dumb random information. So in this episode, they go gold hunting, and Ruri is disappointed to at first find pyrite, which they do find some interesting pyrite crystals, but they eventually do go like properly looking for gold, and Ruri ends up finding a decent chunk of gold that after constantly being obsessed with like all the money that she can make off the gold and everything, she decides to keep it as a memento of everything that they went through to find it, which I thought was nice. And again, the animation for the series has been consistently great. Nagi has some fantastic assets, and like the information, it's still pretty basic, but they do give you a little bit of a tip off on how, you know, pyrite forms and all that, and the collection of golden streams and all that. So there's some interesting stuff there. It's just not super in depth like you would probably want if you're really into something like mineralogy or geology. Overall, good show though. I do genuinely enjoy it. I need to make a note of this. 3. Okay. And that brings us to a very interesting anime. Night of the Living Cat. So this one's just as ridiculously dramatic as always. I genuinely think that this one is it's a very good show just because of how unabashed it is in its insanity. Of course, we do have the allergic friend who has a problem with, like, who has an allergy to cats. And you know, they meet up in this supermarket that they're hiding out in. And they're doing all this stuff to try and survive. Of course, you know how zombie movies go. Someone makes a mistake, and in this case, a cat gets into the building, and now they're gonna have some fucking trouble. But the one thing I do want to like point out in this episode is that there's just a random fucking Freddie Mercury cameo in here. Like a completely random Freddie Mercury cameo in the grocery store. They're going through all this stuff, and they pan over to this one character. I guess it's a fair point on Rory Rocks. Anyway, they pan over to this one character, and it's this dude with like really like short hair, in like a white tank top, and he has a mustache, and the only thing he says is "Hey-oh." I about died laughing when they did that. I was like, why would you ever do this? There is no point. It makes no sense, but it's fucking hilarious. And of course, we can't forget about the insanity of like an entire cat food company basically having like a assassination branch that deals with any reporters who like don't talk positively about their company. I thought that was fucking funny. But yeah, there is a there is a Freddie Mercury mention. There's a Freddie Mercury cameo in this. It is hilarious. Anyway, I love Night of the Living Cat. It is, if you're looking for something that is absolutely like just unhinged ridiculousness, this is great. Night of the Living Cat. Hats off to you. Okay, and that moves us down to where is it? Well, I mean, it's Secrets of the Silent Witch. So I just need to find my notes on it because I had some things that I said specifically that I wanted to go over. This is why I need to organize my notes. Finally found it. Okay, there we go. So, this week they released the dub for Secrets of the Silent Witch. And it's not the best. I don't think it's the worst. It's not a terrible dub. It's just after watching the sub for the first 2 episodes, I feel like the dub voice actor for Monica just does not fit. And it kind of ruins the whole show because Monica is the reason I watch. They still do some really good stuff. Like, it's still really good to watch this one. Because we get some funny moments with Monica in this episode, with her deciding how she's going to handle falling down the stairs and getting involved with a bunch of other stuff. And Monica, funny moment, like her whole like getting appointed to the council was like, "Hey, wait, what? Why am I? Oh no, oh no." the Monica freakouts were generally pretty funny. And the animation in that regard does help accent that comedy, much like with My Dress Up Darling, although not to the same extent because the animation isn't quite as good. But I do have to wonder what is going on with the ice guy who keeps like losing his memory and everything, or like having his memory overwritten. There is some interesting stuff going on there. We have Monica solving the issue of who threw the flower pot off the balcony earlier in the series. So there's that. But this one has like, other than that, it's like simple fun, very enjoyable. Monica being Monica, we do have some more stuff that affirmed my theory about her. I had said that she has trouble speaking to people because her father was basically executed for something she said. And we do get a little bit more to back up that theory. It seems like something that she said offended a noble, and therefore he was forced to sort of take accountability for it and ended up, getting executed. And that left a huge scar on her mentally, and she has trouble talking because she is afraid of that specific instance. So that scene, that I do like that part of the backstory. I think that makes her character pretty compelling, as if she wasn't already endearing in a way already. So I was kind of impressed with how much time to think she had while falling down the stairs. Yeah, it was funny. I also like that people had to correct her and like tell her we don't need all of the complicated mathematical details about how you calculated where the fall came from. But this one, it's so much fun to watch. Honestly, like I did not expect this to be one that I would be super into. So I am very, very happy with what we have gotten so far. Next would be dealing with the Mikadono sisters is a breeze. And this one, oh boy, have I loved this one. I'm loving this show more and more as time goes on. I think that this one has been very entertaining. It's incredibly wholesome and funny. Like there's just a bunch of like random shenanigans and stuff. And of course we do get the kimono episode already. We got the required festival arc of any romance story that comes out of Japan. You have to go to a festival. Here we go. So our main guy has wrangled all three sisters into the same place without them knowing and convinced them to go to a festival so they can spend time together, all because he found a photo of them all having a good time at a festival together back when they were kids. And he's basically doing his best to try and like repair their family, even though they don't really do much as a family. We did have a funny moment earlier in the series where the picky eldest sister is like, just so long as you don't add carrots in here, I'll be fine. And he's like, just so you know, I snuck some carrots in there. And she has this like freak out moment. I don't know. Like this one's just a good rom-com. A good slice of life, a good comedy, whatever you want to call it. It's fun. And that's about all I really wanted out of it. And frankly, it is delivered pretty well on character development and on comedy. So I like that in this, our main character, sure, he is quote unquote useless and he's like less than average, but so far he has managed to use the situation to his advantage and get the better of these girls multiple times just because he's the only one who knows everything that's going on, just because he's attentive, because he pays attention. So it makes him, he may not be book smart, but he is somewhat intelligent, just as is. There we go. All right. So we've done that. We're moving on now to Yaiba. So let's talk about Yaiba. So I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of this latest episode. There were some funny parts of it, like the transformation battle and everything. I thought like the whole thing where they're just like constantly transforming into different things was kind of funny. But they go searching for the dragon orb yet again, only to find a completely different orb. But this time it's the fire orb. And this like they have a fun little battle, like I said, where they're constantly transforming and all that. And the villain this episode tries to pull a fast one on Yaiba, only to end up getting stabbed on the inside of the stomach a bunch of times. We also get Spear Girl in a bikini, so that was interesting. But all of this basically leads me to the Starfish baby. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Mr. Starfish was back in this one. Yeah, this whole thing about his family, and like he has this like dramatic death moment and everything, and they just spray him with some water and he revives. There was that, but yeah, basically I have this theory that they're gonna go around collecting all these different orbs, and it's going to like they're all just fragments of the dragon orb that they have been looking for. That is effectively what I believe is going to happen here. Go. So with Yaiba, I do enjoy it, but I don't think that this is like it basically gets its best when it has a major confrontation between Yaiba and Onimaru. There are a few other ones in there that are really good, but I think it is at its best when it is the two rivals fighting. So it's going to stay right there. That's about how I feel about it. New Saga would be next. New Saga. Where is New Saga? Come on, I gotta find this thing. My dress up darling, kaiju, secret, water. New Saga, okay. So, like was predicted, not specifically by me, but on the Biggles breakdown, someone, I don't remember if it was Biggles or Chad, it's probably Chad, to be entirely honest. I doubt Biggles would be able to rub his brain cells together enough to have a thought like this. But the magic lolly basically learned the truth. She read Kyle's memories and learned about the future, and she basically decides, you know what, I'm going to observe you, I'm going to let you use my power, and hopefully we can do something about this. Then that's about the most interesting scenario we can get to. Of course, we do have the Moonlight contract where our elf girl Urza decides to have her decides to put Kyle under contract to make sure that he can't abuse her real name, and of course he decides to go in for the kiss because that's what happened last time, and she's all of course freaked out because that was not something that was supposed to happen. And poor guy. Of course, there is a bunch of hints at a potential conspiracy in this. Kyle is looking. Kyle is looking to, save this princess who's about to die to a Hydra attack. And there's some hints that possibly her half brother or something is involved in her death, because she's technically like the first in line to the throne or whatever. And well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays. Either way, this is one that I do actually really enjoy. One that I think has been better than I had expected. I like this sort of story. You have this guy reliving his life, doing his best to try and fix all the mistakes of the world that he left. We do also have a little bit of like the stereotypical, like, we got to talk about time travel. So we're going to talk about the many branching paths and how you're not actually going back in time. You're just jumping to a different timeline. So there's some cool stuff in this one. I think it does deserve to move up a little bit because it had a good episode this week. I liked it. Okay. Cultural exchange with Game Center Girl. So cultural exchange with Game Center Girl. I have liked this one. I think that it is a very, very fun anime. And it's actually one that I want to move up to the very good category this week because I have enjoyed it that much. We have our main character going into like the sleazy disguise mode to try and prevent his sister from finding him. We also have the sister working really hard to become friends with this new transfer student who happens to be Lily, which is a nice little touch on all of this. And of course, a couple of people do end up making some jokes about the fact that there is an age gap and that she's in middle school, he's in high school, and that it would be a little weird for them to be involved with each other. So at least it's self-aware in that, and our main character isn't actively pursuing this. He's just sort of trying to deflect in everything that is happening because he doesn't want to hurt this young girl who just moved in from England. This one's funny. I think it's very wholesome and endearing. It's one that I had picked up because I thought it would be like a nice, relaxing series to watch, and I was not disappointed. It ended up actually being pretty good. I like all the effort that our main character is going through to try and hide his identity from his sister, because he knows if he gets caught that something is there are going to be questions asked of him that he doesn't necessarily like. I've already been over Gachi. I can clear that out. All right. So yeah, that one I'm moving up to the very good category because I enjoy it. That brings us to City. So with City, I should probably find it in my notes. This is another one that is probably just going to be a mini anime, but I'm going to talk about it briefly anyway. Also made me want to go to the arcade. Haven't been in ages. The unfortunate thing is like I don't really know if there are really many arcades here in the States for me to go to. So, yeah. City. So one of our characters, it turns out, is incredibly talented and yet lives like a complete deadbeat for whatever reason. There is a bunch of random shenanigans that happen in this one that I can't really go into a ton of detail in talking about. But I think the two like funniest parts in all of this are were basically to do with our photographer girl who was super obsessed with taking pictures of everyone. I thought that whole thing was pretty funny. It was pretty entertaining. But this one, yet again, is just a bunch of like random events, random gags and stuff like that that are put in here. I enjoy it. Again, it's probably going to be something just for me. Okay, Call of the Night. Scroll up. Talked about My Dress Up Darling. I can clear the notes from that. Secret of the Silent Witch. I can clear the notes from that. New Saga. Levitas. Call of the Night. Okay, here we go. Call of the Night. I think this latest episode of Call of the Night actually improves my impression of it. So I'm actually going to move this one up to the top of the category here because I liked a lot of the things that it did with this one, particularly with how we do learn a little bit more about like the vampire's weaknesses and how this detective is able to kill them. I think this episode kind of takes a dark turn to it, but interesting enough. Our detective lady goes after Akun. It does seem like she has a bit of a beef with the vampires over something that happened in her past. And we do learn that some interesting things about the vampires in particular, aside from their weaknesses, is the fact that they sort of like automatically start to forget everything that happened in their human life, which adds a layer of separation. And it adds an interesting sort of moral dilemma to this whole thing of like, it puts another part of the like abandoning your humanity to this story that I think really does make it much more interesting. And then, of course, we have the whole thing about Nazana's past and how she doesn't remember anything. Of course, she has a hospital card. And then there's the whole thing about like that hospital does have something to do with her past, but everyone who knows just apparently won't tell her. I thought it was a lot of the things that it did this episode made me much more impressed with this story than I have been for I don't know how long. Like I said, it adds another level to that, like abandoning your humanity thing where you're literally giving up your previous life. It isn't just you're human, now you're vampire. No, you're eventually going to have to give up your entire previous life because you're just going to automatically forget everything about it. Not immediately, but eventually it will come for you. So, proverbial hat off to you because that was a good one. Next one on the list. Get rid of this. And we can get rid of this. And we can get rid of that. Yeah, so if he actually falls in love, will he forget those feelings? Maybe he doesn't want to become a vampire then anymore. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. But I think that makes a compelling out for the other guy who I don't think should become a vampire. I feel like that would be really weird. I gotta find Ugly Mug Epic Fighter. But it's certainly a development that has caught my attention because it does good things for the story. And you know what? I think I actually do want to demote Togen Anki all the way down to interesting. I was debating whether I wanted to just put it at the bottom of very good or put it in interesting. I think I just want to keep it in interesting, to be entirely honest. I don't need those notes. Make a Dono Sisters. Ugly Mug, Epic Fighter. There we are. So we get Shigeru bouncing around to use all of his attacks in this one. That was kind of funny. But a lot of this is a lot of this episode is based on an obvious betrayal that was coming from the very beginning that even our characters basically predicted. Like, this is something that I don't trust. Like, there's something weird here. I like the fact that our side characters who are not Shigeru in this actually do have the potential to be pretty good in a fight. Like, they're not just going to be completely, it doesn't look like they're going to be completely useless, just entirely relying on Shigeru to do all the work for them. And I kind of like the idea that he is coming around to everyone else who is on the party. Of course, this man is already finding loopholes in his own negative side effects. So he's found out that if someone touches his clothes, it doesn't, damage him. And that if he does things the roundabout way, he can earn money much more effectively than by completing quests. I'm still not like a huge fan of this one, but it's entertaining enough. I find it fun to watch. Okay. And that brings us to detectives these days are crazy. So we get the Stalker episode. Okay, so aside from being utterly ridiculous as always, we basically get a new detective who looks up to our main character, and he gets hit with the he is basically One Punch Man. He needs some good side characters that put up a fight. Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's a good way of putting it, Marcel. I hadn't thought about it like that, but yes, that is true. So basically our new detective guy, who is like the new young prodigy, gets hit with the storage technique and ends up losing to Boob Storage Girl. Of course, we have the whole stalker thing where the Yakuza guy goes around stalking the young detective because the young detective was out there stalking our main guy. So stalker. I thought that part was kind of funny. Another thing though is like the dude's assistant like pretending to be like super harsh on him and everything and just being like super shy or whatever. Or sorry, I should say they have this whole thing where like they make the whole joke about how like the young detective's assistant really hates him. And like she's constantly mean to him. He's like, oh well, she's just shy around me. And then the moment he's not around, she actually starts like being really, really nice to him. She's like talking like really well of him and all that. I'm like, oh wow. It wasn't just him like misperceiving this. Like they actually do make a good case for her being shy around this dude. Anyway, I've enjoyed it. It's a good comedy. Okay, the stunned hero and the assassin princess. So in this latest episode, all of our girls continue to fall for this guy. I mean, we have Goa and Amine taking their crack at it this time around, and Goa basically ends up just going out on a date with the guy. And Amine realizes, wait, my ultimate technique is basically going to turn into a nuclear bomb if I don't do something about this. Maybe I shouldn't use it on this guy because it might just take me out with him, and that wouldn't really be worth a damn. Either way, I thought the whole cafe robbery scene was very funny. You have our two girls, the Magic Lolly and Goa, just sitting there chilling in the middle of like this whole robbery or whatever, and like just completely ignoring everything that's going on. getting into a fight, putting those guys in their place. This one's a good one. It's a good little comedy, to be entirely honest. I enjoy it, although I don't think I will be moving it up much above this because, I don't know, it wasn't something like super huge to me. But that said, we're going to move on to the last one in this category, and then we're going to get to the interesting zone. Okay. And that would be Reborn as a vending machine. Yeah, the characters do have really good chemistry in that one. So we have the waterboarding episode where Boxo chokes a guy out with a wet cloth and then shoves soda down his gullet and threatens to blow him up with Mentos. One of the most insane ways to like interrogate someone of all time. Like that in and of itself is weird. Of course, we do have Lamas having her like whole breakdown upon meeting an old enemy. She gets like really worked up and all that. And then their flirting session with the vending machine. However the hell that was supposed to work. Okay. But it's the stereo. Apologies to everyone who's listening to me cough on my mic. But it's the stereotypical sort of shenanigans you would expect from this show. I'm still like not going to move this one up above interesting. You would have to do something absolutely ridiculous in order, or something absolutely spectacular, I should say, in order to get me to move this up. But like, I don't know, man. It's watchable. It's entertaining. I actually look forward to every time that it's on, that it's up. So do with that information what you will. All right. I guess the next one on the list is Onmyo Kaiten. And this one gets a minor promotion this week. Onmyo Kaiten, I liked the part in this latest episode where it basically went, it was like the rivals to friends sort of thing, where like the chick is getting like super upset that her old partner is choosing to go with someone else, and she feels like super slighted by everything. So she tries to, go fight our main character, and they have it out and then end up becoming really good friends and working together very well in a fight. I'm kind of confused why our main character is now like living with the performer girl, because I'm pretty sure that she was like kind of thinking of him as like a creep and a weirdo previously, and now all of a sudden he's just sort of like hanging out around there. But unlike with Togen Anki, I think this is probably one thing that I would praise this over Togen Anki for, is the fact that the main character does the lovable dolt thing a little bit better. And yes, we do have, I'm sure you're talking about the dark skinned chick who wants to beat our main character up here. Yes, I do think she's hot. That said, I will still make the same sort of criticisms of this show that I have. I don't think the animation has been done the best it could be. It uses a lot of 3D CGI, and I'm not a huge fan of the setting or the power system, but it's at least decent enough to keep me coming back for more. So I'll give it that. It did something that I actually really liked this time. No, it is not my new Behen Neko. Christ. Okay. Next on the list, scooped up by an S rank party. This one, This one's got to go closer to the bottom of the list, if you ask me. So my big question is, like, in all of this, why? Okay, you're adventurers. You go out into the wilderness and fight monsters. You could be set upon by danger at any moment. Why in the fuck would you ever disarm yourself and pass your weapon to someone else? And this point actually proves to be like, I don't know, so like this actually like is an interesting point here, because our main character then has to draw all of my phone just fell out of my pocket. Our main character then has to draw all of the two girls' weapons out of his inventory. Just so that he can toss them to them. Seriously, it is an incredibly stupid idea. Like, I could understand if you're going to use his storage skill to pack all of their luggage into a space that wouldn't bother you. But never, ever, ever, if you're traveling in these settings, store your weapons. It's just a really, like, Scooped Up by an S-rank adventurer is a really weak entry this season. And it's one that will likely be dropped, if you ask me, very quickly here. To answer this question, I don't hate it. I'm just severely disappointed by the second episode. I really loved the first, and the second gave me like almost nothing that I was super into. It's as simple as that. Missed a fan service opportunity, but it's not wholesome enough to really be a kid friendly. Kind of weak, yeah. So yeah, Scooped Up by an S-rank party it's not on my list of amazing entries for the week. Of course, that brings us to Watari-kun's garden is about to collapse. And I got to find my notes for that. Here we go. So in this episode, we learn basically that Blondie was put up to destroying their garden when they were young. We learn that the nice chick that he's been flirting, that our main character, that Watari's been flirting with this whole time, sucks at cooking. And we have the whole like beach episode incoming sort of thing as they're sort of plotting to go to the beach. Also, I should say hello to Arceus. Thank you for, stopping by. I appreciate it. I'm really not sure how to feel about this one, because like I continue to watch it hoping that something will happen, and yet so far nothing significant has really happened for this one. Like, we did have the whole thing with like Blondie under the sheets with our main character, and like the whole thing where like she's kind of like getting off to it and like, you could put more weight on me and all that. And then later, of course, he does imagine the other chick in bed with him. And I don't know whether this wants to be like horny or not, or whether it's trying to be safe horny or what. There's so much about this one that I am baffled by. But I'm not going to move it right now, because at least there's interesting enough shenanigans going on to where like I'll continue to at least be like, oh, hey, there's a new episode of this. All right. The Water Magician. Isekai entry. Okay. So in this episode, Ryo becomes an adventurer. And of course, nobody seems to believe that he is actually capable of doing what he very clearly did already. But it does seem like he may get an in with the Crimson Swords or whatever. But I love that there's this whole joke about how Ryo won't end up turning into a bad guy, because there's this whole joke about how Ryo won't end up becoming a bad guy because he just hates the name of the Empire. And I have to imagine that this is some sort of language joke that I don't get, like the Debuhi. It's got to sound like something weird in Japanese, and he just doesn't like the name of it. Either way, it's very interesting to see that he has this encounter. He has an encounter with an elf girl in this episode, and she apparently recognizes the attire of the Fairy King. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Of course, like I mentioned, nobody believes what Ryo can actually do. There's all this dispute over whether he actually can cast the magic that he can cast, and the only question you would have is, or the only thing you would have to do to resolve that sort of discrepancy is to have him actually cast in front of this person. Oh. Okay. So that is the Water Magician. This is one that is pretty mid, honestly. It's okay. I have a more positive impression of it than not because I don't know why. But I guess it's decently enjoyable for some reason. We do have tutor or private tutor. Interesting. Okay. Is that what it is? Debu is like an insult, like fat pig. Buhi is the sound pigs make. Okay. That would make a whole lot of sense. Okay, so private tutor to the Duke's daughter. That's the next one on the list. I actually kind of liked the action this week. If nothing else, it's still not one that I super duper care for. So it's the Fat Pig Empire. Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. And like, I don't know why I'm really watching this, is because I'm like, I don't know, most of the time I'm just kind of like, whatever. I feel like there isn't a whole lot here to this one. It's just kind of bland anime. But this latest episode, like I said, offered something that was interesting in terms of the action and the magic that was used. But now that the girls are going off to the academy, I do not see this as being something that I'm going to be terribly into for much longer. This may end up being one that I cut very quickly. So who knows how that's going to go. I'm kind of just breezing through this one because there isn't really much to talk about. There isn't really any points that I want to hit for private tutor to the Duke's daughter. There's like no, like, I don't know, romance or best girl or like amazing character developments or anything like that. It's just kind of there. And I can go into the next entry on the list, which will be Kaiju number 8. So Kaiju number 8's official season 1 or season 2, episode 1 was really good. I liked it. I thought it was a very well done episode. Okay. I thought like basically what made this episode of Kaiju number 8 for me was Narumi as a character. I got to watch the dub for this one. I thought it was pretty well done. They actually had Aaron Dismuke as Captain Narumi. I always thought he's a pretty good voice actor as far as English dubs go. And like I said, his entry into battle was epic, like chills down my spine, kind of. Ooh, that was really well done. That whole thing I enjoyed. I also do like the fact that they've sort of implied that like mechs are a thing in this world, and that like some people actually operate mech suits. That's kind of cool. But the big point that I want to talk about in this is the sound design for this first episode. And why is that? Well, there's a couple of things that I actually noticed, and they're particularly to do with kaiju sound effects and the background music. They use a lot of like old school Godzilla soundtrack for this first episode. And I thought that was really good. I thought it was actually pretty awesome to hear that kind of stuff. He's all right. Give me more of the girl, Captain, though. Okay, fine, whatever. Whatever, Marcel. The big thing, though, I do want to point out is why, like, the only complaint I have about this episode, because it's otherwise really good. I did genuinely enjoy it a ton. Why did the kaiju sound like an elephant? They used elephant sounds for the kaiju. Why? I feel like that was a really, really silly thing to do. But other than that, like I said, fantastic first episode. I think it automatically goes in the very good. It could, step up. I do know what they're going to be covering. I'm looking forward to seeing how they end up doing some of this stuff in future episodes. And hopefully Biggles will forgive me for this one. Or forgive me now, because I've said that Kaiju number 8 is in the upper ends of the bracket. Okay. Apocalypse Bringer Minyara. Apocalypse Bringer Vic Mignogna. I'm just going to keep calling it that because why the hell else not? Why the hell not? So in this episode, they do touch on the fact that they do touch on the fact that Takuto's emergency production can produce anything that he is familiar with. We have the Dark Elves becoming evil this episode, and that's really like the big stuff we get. I feel like this show is rushing through tons of stuff. I am not like a super huge fan of it. I've been terribly unimpressed with this one, because I just, for the life of me, cannot get invested in this because I know a lot of what's coming. I think it sucks, to be entirely honest. Like this latest episode, its humor didn't land. I'm not really invested in any of the storytelling or whatever. If it had just focused on Takuto doing like an Eins Ul Gon sort of like thing, sure, you can argue that perhaps it would have ended up being an Overlord quote unquote knockoff, but I still think it would have been much better than what we got, given the way this story has panned out. That's really my big complaint, is just the direction of the story overall is not something I enjoy. Not a fan of this one. So the next one, of course, would be Anne Shirley. And honestly, I really just don't feel like I want to watch this one anymore. Like, more and more, I'm feeling like it's just a slog, and it might be one of the first ones I dropped this season after going through it all last season, which would be really ironic. So in this episode, we have Gilbert still trying to flirt with Anne all this time, but she just is friend zoning him this whole time. So I wonder how that's going to go, if she's going to end up regretting it as he moves on to a different girl or something. We do have a new girl introduced in all of this, and she is like the very like shallow, sort of boring chick that you would expect to get like the gold digger. But Anne and Priscilla seem to like her, so I guess there's that. I don't know. I can't get behind this one, dude. It's like not giving me anything that I really like super enjoy. So, ugh. I might end up getting rid of it after the next episode. I don't know. Of course, that brings us to one of the last existing entries for the night. She does have the looks, though. I do know that. Okay, so April showers bring May flowers. So in this one, we learn that the pretty girl who is befriending Tabata, she's a cunt. We do learn that Tabata is still a good person regardless. She's a decent friend. And we learn that Ueno himself is a really, really good friend because he's always looking out for people and just genuinely being a nice person. And that's effectively what this episode comes down to, as the pretty girl in this show is like, she's full of herself. She tries to find a way to make Tabata supposedly back away from Ueno, even though she isn't even the one who's approaching him. She's doing all this stuff to, like, you know, try and like make Tabata feel insecure about herself. She just acts like a cunt this whole time, and then gets saved by Tabata at the end and is like, oh well, whatever. I don't know. This is another one that I'm not really feeling. It's like not super into it. I feel like there are things that I probably should, you know, just get on with. This is another one that is perpetually on the chopping block right now, because if I feel like I need more time, it's going to be one of the ones that I get rid of. And that brings us to the last one. Yeah, that's a good point. Who just walks up to it? Well, they're in a mall food court, I believe. But yeah, they just sort of like walk up to this chick and try to like drag her away. Like that's some fucking freaky behavior right there, dude. But perhaps this is a thing that like the Japanese are known for. I don't know. Seems kind of weird, but like it happens pretty regularly in manga and anime. These pickup artists coming along and doing shit like this. So, yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the last one before we get to some of the new ones, and we talk about the incredibly interesting anime that I have put onto the list this week. Let's talk about this thing. Betrothed to My Sister's Ex. This may I don't know, perhaps be unpopular, but I actually like really enjoy this one as kind of a guilty pleasure. I've actually found this one to be fairly entertaining. I do like the fact that you have this whole thing of like this Duke trying to flirt with this chick and like, you know, get her to fall in love with him, but she literally could not misunderstand everything that's going on more. And really all I can say about it is like I enjoy what it's doing. It's not the most fantastic or original thing that's out there, but I like what it's done so far, and I do think that the main girl is pretty good looking. So that probably lends to my impression of it. The fact that I kind of like the chick. Did you make a just for me category? No, I have not. Because really all of these categories are just how I kind of feel about the anime. So this whole list is like my personal list. I'm not going to say that something is just for me. I'm going to give how I feel about it, like as compared to everything else. Does that make sense? I feel like a just for me category is a cop out in explaining why I do or don't like something. But yeah, with this one, I watched both episodes. I almost got all the way through the third episode, but didn't get to fully complete it because I had to start this stream. I am dedicated to being on time for you, the viewer, okay? I appreciate you. But I'm going to continue watching this one because I get a good amount of pleasure out of it. Like, I genuinely enjoy it. It's the kind of wholesome, fun relaxation series that I want to find at the end of a week. Okay? I think there's some good stuff in it. All right. Let's talk about some anime. First on the list, Nuki Tashi. And this is why there is a completely new category on the list. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Nuki Tashi is an anime that I cannot quite formulate any thoughts on. It is an anime. And insofar as being a lewd anime, it just about hits every possible kink that you could think of. Incest? It's got incest. Public orgies? It's got that. BDSM? Grape? Yeah, there's a lot going on with this one. Holy crap. And I felt like by the end of this, I almost felt like I needed to, just out of obligation, rinse my eyeballs with some holy bleach, because holy crap. This one was pretty insane. The animation on it was actually better than anything I had expected out of it. But holy crap, this is a watch this when nobody else is around, because I don't know if I could ever show anything of this show, because it feels like in almost every scene there are people fucking. It is unhinged, and they are just about as uncensored as they can be. That's the thing is, like, I'm actually gonna continue watching it. Like, unironically, I'm gonna continue watching it because there's something intriguing about it to me that makes me want to watch it. But at the same time, I feel morally obligated to toss this anime aside. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like that. This show is basically that awkward boner you get when you don't know if you should be turned on by something or not. That is what this show is. Okay. Sakamoto Days. Where do I put Sakamoto? Where do I wanna? Oh, where do I want to put Sakamoto Days? I'll put it at the bottom of the very good category. That is where I will put it. Because when it comes to this one, I actually enjoyed these last couple of episodes. I thought the action was pretty good. I've never been a huge fan of the storytelling of Sakamoto Days. However, I really did like Shin and Drunk Lu in these last two episodes, especially with Shin getting some cool new powers. And we have the whole like drunken mafioso Lu, which was kind of funny. Either way, I've never been huge on the comedy from this show, but I guess its action and like characters are at least entertaining enough to keep me watching. So I came back for the second season. I'm going to give it a try. Right now, I feel like it started off on a good foot. It gave me some good action. So I'm satisfied with it. All right. And that leaves us. D-Day Direwolf. I'm not super impressed by Nukitashi, but I respect it in existing. I feel for a while. I feel for a while. Japan cucking to Western standards and going down the same road. They're essentially the West circa 2014. Yeah, and insofar as Nukitashi goes, one of the things is I don't have an objection to sexual content or anything like that. But when I mentioned like bleaching my eyes with like holy bleach and all that, the big thing I have is when it comes to like sexual content, I feel like it needs to be tasteful or at least done in a good way. And the way Nukitashi is so blatant with just being completely out there, it was a little too over the top and gratuitous for my tastes. But at the same time, I guess the best way to describe it is this show is like a train crash and I need to see where it goes because our bro is out here running around with a dildo in hand like it is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You're on Rust playing knife-only game modes, okay? I have to see where this fucking goes. And the more they keep doing this, the more China and Korea keep taking their audience. I would like it. I would like it to be tasteful stuff if you're going to do sexy stuff, but I'm not going to oppose this thing's existence. I do not think that it needs to be banned or anything. It's going to be one of those things that's not for me, but I'm going to continue watching it either way. Drunk Lu is great. You can get sloshed together and she becomes unhinged. Double win. Yeah, I guess. Last one of the night, though, is the return of one of the great anime of the last season, Sword of the Demon Hunter. And that one's got to go up here right at the top. Because this one is great. I love it. Sword of the Demon Hunter is consistently fantastic with its writing. It is very mature in the way it does things. Not in that it is like grotesquely juvenile and talks about sex and gore and all that stuff. No, it just does things in a very competent and efficient way. In this latest episode, we do get to see a lot of what happened in Genia's past. So there was some stuff like that. We also get the mention of the dawn of a new era. So it looks like some time has passed since the end of the first part of this. And of course, we do get a few new pieces of lore dropped in this episode about cursed swords and how potentially one of them is currently wielded by Genia. But I'm really looking forward to how this story is going to pan out because so far I think it's done a really good job of elaborating on its characters and their motivations and everything that has been happening in this show. So I look forward to more of this. I am really glad that it is back this soon because it is a great anime. And if you haven't checked this one out, I do strongly recommend that you at least give it a try. This is one that's on High Dive, so I don't think it gets enough attention just because of that. So that's why I am giving it the shout out that I am. But that said, this is our list for the week. This is how I feel about this week's anime. Of course, I hope you guys enjoyed. There are a few more that I do want to put on this list, but I am currently trying to catch up on those. So the big ones will probably be Bunny Girl, or Rascal Does Not Dream of Santa Claus, and See You Tomorrow at the Food Court. Upon recommendations, I will be taking these up and giving them a chance. That being said, I will be back at you Monday with another video. I'm going to continue working on my big video essay that I've been writing this last week. That's half the reason why I didn't post a video last Monday. The other part of it was that I was at a concert in Tinley Park, which is far away from where I live. And I was there almost all night, so I didn't get a chance to actually record a video for Monday. Basically, I was incredibly fecking busy. However, I do have my big video essay script done, so I'm going to start recording and editing that. I'll continue on with the weekly updates, and hopefully in the next week or so, I will be able to get out one of my videos, or one of these big videos. That being said, I do appreciate everyone who was here. D-Day, Direwolf, Marcel. I know we had Jeremy Turner. There was the questioners. Arceus Rules was here. Roland New showed up at one point. JM, the Elite Fan. I appreciate each and every one of you who showed up. Muffler Tape as well. Justin the Rhino. Everyone who came in, commented, watched, liked, all that stuff. Be sure to hit the like button, by the way, because the algorithm now needs you to. If you do not hit the like button, it doesn't do me any good, but I digress. To every one of you, I appreciate it. You're a fantastic audience. Thanks for letting me do this and tuning in to watch me do this. If it weren't for guys like you, I wouldn't have a reason to do all this stuff. So, have a good week. I'll catch you later. The next time you'll see me live is on the Biggles Breakdown over at Biggles Mets channel. So, hope you'll tune in over there. Later.